how do you attribute to the top of the ticket, Chris?
The wave election just made matters worse. Once the driver's license issue became public, the election was difficult for the top of the ticket for us to win. And unfortunately, good candidates down ticket by no fault of their own were caught up in that wave. And the Republicans could have, perhaps Bob said it in 2006 when you talked to him, were caught up in the so-called scandals. 2006, a wave election, 2006. Bob Taft wasn't even in the ballot, but he impacted everybody else who was. And so you think, well, Betty Montgomery had traditionally been the largest vote getter, and she lost to Mark Dan, who, admittedly, we should all know our history, not many of us knew Mark Dan apart from what was going on in this Coingate scandal down here and in Toledo. It wasn't covered all that extensively in other papers. It was covered, but not all that extensively. Yet she still lost. Well, a lot can be said for up ticket, wave elections, the impact of scandal, those kinds of things. In this case, there was no scandal, unless you think a driver's license is scandalous. Perhaps you do. Perhaps some do. But it was insurmountable.
Many people...
You've asked many times about, I'm sorry, Jim, just to follow up on that. We've asked you before about the vetting process. I mean, now that you're on your way out, I mean, anything more to say about what more you should have done?
I would advise David Pepper to not get caught up in this notion that the state party ought to vet every statewide candidate. As I had a conversation with now Justice Bill O'Neill reminding him of the fact that he did in fact run for the United States Congress. I believe it was in 2008. And I asked Judge O'Neill when he vetted himself. He told me the summer of 2007. I asked if he was endorsed by the Geauga County Party or the Summit County Party or the Ashtabula County Party. He said no. So I said, so those parties would not have spent their resources vetting a candidate who was unendorsed. He said, correct. I said, why didn't you endorse yourself post-primary? And he admitted, once you're won the primary and you do a vet and things aren't as what they seem, what are you supposed to do, have a do-over? It's important that all candidates be as honest and upfront as possible. And when I sit across from any candidate, and I've done this dozens of times, whether you're running for county commissioner or for governor, and I say, tell me everything that's wrong. You be open and honest completely and know that myself or the chairman of the Republican Party, the heads of our caucuses, the leaders of our party, whether myself directly or those who are representing the party, are going to do what's in your best interest. And that's why it's incumbent upon us that we know.
But you did have that conversation.
I did.
With Ed.
Dozens of times. Dozens of times.
Do you think he just didn't remember, or did
He'll
he
have
know
to
that
speak
it
on
was-
that. You know, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I've been so proud to have been chairman for 9 years. It's been a hell of a run. I've enjoyed almost. There's a book, I think a political. I can't remember who wrote the book, but the title is. Most of it was fun, and in terms of my service, most of it has been really fun. I've had a great time, and I don't want. And I'll let you finish the question. I'm sorry. I don't want Ed Fitzgerald's lack of a driver's license and what he did or didn't do, what he did or didn't say, to really be the focus of my final couple of weeks. Now, are people going to say, "Oh, Redfern gave us Ed Fitzgerald"? Some of us do know the truth. I'm a Ted Strickland Democrat, and I met with Ted Strickland at Giuseppe's, beautiful Italian restaurant. First week of January 2013, and we talked about the gubernatorial race, and he told me he was not going to run, and that he was going to think about the U.S. Senate in the future, which you all know about now, but he was not going to run for the governor. You can say a lot of things, but you can't call me anything less than a Strickland Democrat. And I've been pushing for Ted. I'll be supportive of Ted if he runs for the United States Senate. A decision he needs to make and will make, but I didn't know Ed Fitzgerald all that well. That doesn't mean he's a bad guy, by the way. I don't mean to intimate or suggest that he was or wasn't a bad guy. It's just political allies support political allies, and in this case I didn't. I think in large respects, coming from the largest county, as he does, being a former FBI agent, which he is, mayor of Lakewood, in totality, that is a great political resume.
Given
That's
what
a
you
great
know
political
now,
resume.
given what you know about this race now, could this race have been won by Ted Strickland if he'd gotten in?
I think it would have been obviously closer, which means if Ted had not won, somebody down ticket could have. Connie Pillich is a perfect example. I think Nina and David, Connie, John, these are great candidates down ticket. Sherrod Brown repeatedly said two things. This is the strongest state party in the country, and we've recruited the best candidates down ticket. And both were true then, and both are true now. And the great news is, and sometimes, with all due respect, we have to do these stories that are process stories, or we have to do a look-back story and write things like the Democratic Party's bench is in shambles. Really? You guys don't know Nina Turner? John Carney? David Pepper? I mean, Connie Pillage? You go to the House, meet some of the people, hear their speeches, and look where they're from. Think, my gosh, that person reminds me of a young Dick Celeste, or that person reminds me of a young Mary Ellen Withrow. The list goes on and on and on and on. We ought not be saddled with the fact that a bench is determined by age. Yeah, P.J. Sittenfeld is a younger elected official, but like Nina Turner, who's a little older than P.G., not much, but a little. They both make up what is a robust bench going forward.
You
As
know-
you prepare to leave